High school student Katsuhira Agata is a boy who seems to feel no emotions or pain, and a frequent target of bullying. Shortly before summer break, he meets a strange girl, Noriko Sonozaki, who compares his classmates with the 7 deadly sins before pushing him down a flight of stairs as a part of an experiment. He wakes up in an underground hospital room with 5 other classmates, when Noriko tells him how she abducted and experimented on them, enlisting the aid of people dressed as white Gomorin, Sugomori's city mascot. However, all but Katsuhira leave the room in disinterest, as Katsuhira learns that the fall would have killed him if the experiment had not dispersed his injuries across the other classmates. Noriko reveals that all the classmates are now Kiznaivers, connected through the experimental Kizna system via scars on their wrists. Noriko traps the Kiznaivers in a hallway of the building and tasks them with introducing themselves to each other. If they do not cooperate, they are subjected to painful and life-threatening situations. It is eventually revealed that the true goal is to have them confess secrets to each other, such as Hajime Tenga having cynophobia. As Noriko initiates a countdown for a demolition, Nico Niyama reveals her disbelief in fairies, halting the countdown. Tsugohiro Yuta is exposed for being overweight during elementary school for a toothbrush award. Outside the building, Katsuhira introduces himself as someone who feels nothing, while inside a crate attached to a crane. When his childhood friend Chidori Takashito confesses her love for him, he suddenly feels happiness, and reintroduces himself as someone slowly learning his own feelings. Afterwards, Honoka Maki shares her secret of having killed someone. After Honoka plays off her secret as a lie, the 6 Kiznaivers later begin to feel a residual pain, which was mistakenly first felt after Hajime fell off Katsuhira's apartment balcony. This feeling occurs more than once during the day, prompting Noriko to task the 6 Kiznaivers with tracking down a missing 7th member, whose pain they all can feel. After no one in their class reacts in pain when the Kiznaivers harm each other, they deduce the missing member to be Yoshiharu Hisomu, the only student that has been absent since the start of school. They try to confront Yoshiharu at his apartment, but he runs away and a chase ensues. Finding Yoshiharu by an overpass, Katsuhira jumps off in an attempt to convince him that they're all connected. While Katsuhira lands painfully inside a nearby convertible, the other Kiznaivers learn that Yoshiharu is aroused by pain. Meanwhile, Noriko hosts a conference regarding the Kizna system to government officials, with the aim of the true connection. In his apartment with the other Kiznaivers, Katsuhira awakens from a flashback involving a young Noriko. Yoshiharu explains to the others of his fondness of masochism, taking pleasure in fatally dangerous and unexpected pain. After Nico, Tsukuhiro, and Honoka leave, Yoshiharu reveals to Katsuhira, Chidori, and Hajime of how he secretly submitted to the Kizna system just for the stimulation, a promise made by Noriko herself. After Yoshiharu finally shows up to class, Nico advises the Kiznaivers to exchange email addresses as a step to become friends. Noriko invites the Kiznaivers to a summer camp at a resort, where she later informs them about the history and her involvement in the Kizna system experimented in Sugomori City. On the way through the woods, Chidori jealously notices a relationship growing between Katsuhira and Noriko, much to Hajime's attention. Meanwhile, another car approaches the resort, carrying Kamaishi and Yoshizawa, 2 of Katsuhira's bullies, revealing that they are also Kiznaivers. As the group settles in at the resort, they divide the chores with cooking and chopping wood. However, Hajime repeatedly fails to bring Katsuhira and Chidori closer together over their meal. At night, Chidori runs away when she misunderstands Noriko slapping Katsuhira on the cheek, but only to swat a mosquito. And Honoka catches Tsukuhiro sneaking a midnight meal despite his low appetite during the day. She attempts to seduce him against his will. This is interrupted when Noriko introduces chemistry teacher Kazuna Yamada and school counselor Mitsumi Urishibara as Kizna committee members. With Chidori still missing in the woods, Yamada and Urishibara put the other Kiznaivers through a test of bravery until they find Chidori. Meanwhile, Chidori is chased inside a shed by Kamaishi wearing a Gomomorin costume, and she realizes that he is a Kiznaiver. Chidori berates Kamaishi about the pain that his bullying towards Katsuhira has caused her, drawing the other Kiznaivers to the shed. This makes Katsuhira realize that he was never alone in his suffering. A flashback of Honoka and a cheerful girl named Ruru is shown. Noriko contacts the Kiznaivers to explain that they were successfully able to connect pain through their hearts. At Katsuhira's apartment, Tsukuhiro does not show up and Honoka decides to leave early. At a restaurant, Tsukuhiro's friends are enamored by a Yuri manga under the pen name Charles de Macking, but a chord strikes within Tsukuhiro when he realizes a line in the manga that Honoka has said, prompting him to leave. Honoka is approached by an editor who seeks to obtain the rights to produce her manga as a movie. As Tsukuhiro stops him, Honoka runs off in anger. As Tsukuhiro later shares a piece of Honoka's past as a manga author to the other Kiznaivers, Noriko assigns them a special mission to save her. Honoka arrives at the school, surrounded by a film crew, causing her to break down with a massive pain signal. The rest of the group manage to find her and drive away the film crew. While Honoka runs off in utter shock, Katsuhira expresses his disappointment in Noriko how half-hearted the mission felt. The Kiznaivers, except Honoka, visit the parents of Ruru, learning about her terminal kidney disease that led to her inevitable death. Meanwhile, Honoka reminisces about her time with Ruru when they were a manga artist duo under the pen name Charles de Macking. They were best friends, but Ruru started developing feelings for Honoka, which created a wedge and drove them apart. So Ruru made the last chapter on her own. As Honoka's heartache resonates within the other Kiznaivers, they set out to form a lasting friendship with her. Although a withdrawn Honoka ignores their calls in her room, her heart is touched when Nico has an outburst of concern. During a downpour, Honoka encounters Tsukuhiro, reading her manga, but he is surprised to learn that she has never read the last chapter. As Tsukuhiro and Honoka meet up with the other Kiznaivers attempting to light up sparklers at the beach, Honoka suggests that they should swim, despite the weather. Honoka reaches the end of the manga and her heart is at ease, as Ruru's message was a sign of forgiveness. Honoka assures the others that they are closer as Kiznaivers rather than as friends or lovers. Yamada and Urishibana analyze that Honoka is love-struck based on her deep level of above pain. As a typhoon approaches Sugimori City, the Kiznaivers are kidnapped by several Gomoden and taken back to the school. Yamada shows them a slideshow presentation covering the details of a previous Kizna experiment done several years ago on children to connect the entire spectrum of sensations including pain. When Hajime questions the inhumane methods despite the true aim for world peace, Yamada leaves the Kiznaivers at the school, with another mission to get home safely. However, this is part of Yamada's plan to stimulate romantic connections among the Kiznaivers, who have been chased to separate areas of the school and must find a way out. Hajime causes Nico to transmit flustered emotions in a classroom, while an irritated Yoshiharu angers Honoka at a stairwell by touching on her internal trauma. But Tsukuhiro manages to calm down Honoka. Meanwhile, at a rooftop, as Chidori attempts to confess her feelings for Katsuhira, he immediately runs and jumps off, saving Noriko from a falling statue after she exits an underground subway station. Noriko then removes her diamond choker, revealing a glowing Kizna scar on her nape. Noriko collapses after telling Katsuhira that he exists within her. After the other Kiznaivers have taken shelter in the audiovisual room, Yamada remotely screens Katsukira and Noriko in the gymnasium onto a projector, revealing to the others how Noriko Kizna's scar is tied to Katsuhira's visions of the past. As Hajime rallies the other Kiznaivers to the gymnasium, Katsuhira is finally able to piece together his past from 12 years ago with other experienced children. Noriko unbuttons Katsuhira's shirt, which unveils a second Kizna scar on his chest, and he embraces her in tears. When the other Kiznaivers arrive, Katsuhira is prompted to chase after Chidori. Katsuhira grabs Chidori's hand and her Kizna scar glows red, while her inner voice begs to be held. As Urishibara goes against Yamada and tries to stop the Kiznaivers before things get any worse, the Kiznaivers begin to suffer from their inner sorrows as a result of their broken friendship, and the culmination of everyone's inner thoughts leaves them writhing in pain as their red Kizna scars flicker. When the rain clears out, Urishibara and Noriko confront the recovering Kiznaivers and assure them that the Kizna system will be released once summer is over. The Kiznaivers decide not to keep in touch until next school year begins, due to being able to sense each other's inner sorrows, which by then all their Kizna scars have disappeared. After Yamada starts his class with discreet humiliation for the Kiznaivers, this encourages Nico to reconnect with Kutsuhira and Yoshiharu. Noriko attempts a suicidal jump from the roof in a drastic bid for proof of the results of the Kizna system, and Katsuhira's remaining Kizna scar reacts to her. Katsuhira, Nico, and Yoshiharu find the passage into the underground subway station, meeting up with Urishibara, who says that Noriko only fell unconscious. Urishibara further explains that Katsuhira and Noriko were among 19 test subjects during the first Kiznaiver experiment 12 years ago. Noriko received the full force of pain rather than the pain being evenly distributed among the others. She began taking medicine to numb her senses, which affected the other children as well, including Katsuhira. When Katsuhira finds 5 other children who were released 12 years ago, childhood memories pour out of him, as they look at him with still faces. While Katsuhira is still overwhelmed by his past before him, a bedridden Noriko confides in Yamada that she jumped off the roof because she was searching for something that she saw 12 years ago. After saying goodbye to Urashibata, Nico points out to Katsuhira and Yoshiharu that they will have to connect on their own, since they cannot rely on the Kizna system anymore. At the apartment, Katsuhira calls Chidori to tell her that he met the 5 released children described as dolls, apologizes to her for never understanding, and then thanks her for protecting him. The next day, as Katsuhira and Noriko interrupt class to talk in private, Katsuhira believes that he wanted to help Noriko in the Kizna system in order to regain his pain, but she says that he is wrong. After class, Katsuhira gathers the other Kiznaivers to assess the validity of their friendship since the very start. Later, talking to Urashibata, the Kiznaivers discover that they are still bonded even though they are no longer connected through the Kizna system. Noriko suddenly appears in the middle of Sugimori City, offering to bond with everyone. Noriko broadcasts her voice throughout Sugimori City in an effort to connect with all the citizens using a horde of black Gomorin. While driving to the main bridge, Urashibata tells Katsuhira that Noriko carries all his wounds, but she is obsessed with surpassing the limits of the Kizna system to save the 5 dolls. Kamaishi and Yoshizawa have received special Kizna scars on their abdomens, but Hajime is still strong enough to defeat them. As Katsuhira and Urashibata finally approach Noriko at the main bridge, which has slightly opened, the other Kiznaivers express their friendship in the Kizna system. However, Katsuhira wants Noriko to share her wounds with him and let go. Noriko attempts suicide by jumping off the main bridge and plunges into the river below. Katsuhira falls in and tries to save her, both of them surviving in the end, with Katsuhira rejoicing over being able to feel pain again. Tsukuhira and Honoka share an ice cream cone together, hinting that Honoka wants Tsukuhiro to put on some weight. In the mall, Chidori and Hajime make up and start dating, but Nico secretly tells Yoshiharu that she still pines for Hajime. While recovering in the hospital, Katsuhira and Noriko become closer and start to re-experience their emotions together. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.